For today's macaron, I really want to focus on the macaron shell decoration, which is a nest made out of royal icing, really inspired by like springtime and Easter themed macarons. So to start off with that, I wanted to make a shell using the French method here. So I've got my room temperature egg whites in my KitchenAid bowl, starting off kind of low and slow. Then I'll start adding in my sugar and cream of tartar once it starts to get frothy. But I did want to add in my colorant here because sometimes I am asked. Usually I tend to add in the colorant near the end, and you can add powdered colorant in the beginning. It's totally fine. So I just wanted to demonstrate that here as well today. And I'm going with kind of like this is called Hawaiian Blue, I think, by the Sugar Art. It's kind of like a robin's egg blue teal sort of vibe. And this just really screams like spring, Easter color scheme to me. So I really thought that this would be a good base for my macaron shell. If you don't want to do a color like this, I think something that was like green, so it looks like grass or something, or any sort of pastel spring Easter color would also match really, really well with this decoration. One thing I did want to point out here, if you do add your powdered colorant right away, it does look really, really deep and dark and rich in the beginning. And as you keep whipping, you may need to add in a little bit more if you want to keep that color you started off with, or you can always add in more colorant later on as you're adding in your dry ingredients. Once I got a really nice stiff peak on this meringue, I transferred it to a larger, wider bowl so I could mix in the almond flour and powdered sugar. For this macaron, everything is just the same color. I'm just piping regular circles. Nothing is too special. All of the decoration is going to come from some chocolate eggs that I just bought at the store and from some brown colored royal icing. If you wanted to, though, as soon as you get the dry ingredients incorporated and before you do the macaronage process, you could separate out some of your macaron batter and do some of the decoration portion in macaron batter if you do not want to use royal icing. You could actually create the nest with macaron batter by coloring some of your macaron batter brown. So if you want to do it that way, you might want to leave out the colorant or have just a very little bit of color, and then after you divide it out, add brown to one and then whatever other color, the teal or blue or whatever color, and then separately macaronage. And under macaronage, the bit that would be brown, and then you can pipe the nest the same way you see me do with the royal icing, but you can do it with macaron batter before you bake. But for today, for me, I wanted to use a bunch of different ingredients and textures, so I'm just making regular macaron shells. So now that I've got all of those dry ingredients in here, I'm just going to mix until I don't see any more powder, and then I am going to really focus on the macaronage and getting to a really nice ribbon stage. I'm just going to go ahead and pipe regular circles here with this macaron batter. Again, all of the decoration and texture and everything is coming after these shells are baked, so these are looking just like normal. One thing I really do like about this design though is it can be used as an accent kind of design, so you could be making this batch of shells for a certain flavor and keep a lot of the shells just regular, very simple shells filled with whatever delicious filling you've come up with, and then still add this decoration to some of them for a really fun, unique pop of color and texture and something a little bit different, without having to create like a bunch of different batches of macarons, or without even coloring one batch into a bunch of different colors. So I do really like this kind of design for this time of year for that reason. I think it's really, really easy to incorporate into whatever else you're doing. I'm just going to pipe this tray, then tap it, all of that, make sure it's ready to go, rest my shells a little bit, then get them into the oven. I like to bake my macarons at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for about 17 minutes. It might be longer or shorter for you. That temperature might be a bit higher or a bit lower for you. It all depends on what your kitchen, what your oven, what the tools and everything you have at your disposal. However your personal kitchen works best, do what that method works for you. After those shells have come out of the oven and completely cooled, I matched them up and now I'm ready to decorate. So I've got some white royal icing here and I am just going to color it brown. I have some gel color here, and then I also have these chocolate little eggs that I just got at the store. So I have my royal icing. I'm adding in gel food colorant, mostly because I ran out of my powdered food colorant. Otherwise, powdered food colorant works really well, especially when you want a really deep, rich color in here. Then I'm going to just mix this up until everything is completely combined. There aren't any streaks left, and I'm looking for a relatively stiff but still easily pipeable consistency on this, and then I'm going to transfer it into my piping bag. You don't have to use a piping tip for this kind of decoration. You can just snip off a tiny little corner of your piping bag. Otherwise, if you are using a piping tip, think about using like a 0, 1, or 2 for the size, something that's really, really small and circular. Okay, this design is so simple. All you have to do is start somewhere and then just go around and around and around and around and make a bunch of overlapping circles, trying to have a little bit of diversity in what they look like or where they're placed. Don't just pipe like exactly the same circle, otherwise it's not going to look like a nest. So just go around in imperfect circles and or kind of ovals around the outside of the macaron shell, overlapping, stacking up a little bit. And then I'm going to leave this just for a little bit to harden so that when I go to add the eggs later on, it's not going to smush really easily. It will hold together a little bit. For this royal icing, one reason I'm kind of doing the amount that I am that you see here is I really want this to look like a nest, but also I want this to be something that you can actually eat. So it is going to be hard to bite in with the chocolate eggs on the top, but what people can do is just pick off the chocolate eggs on the top later, and then this amount of royal icing is really easy to bite through once a macaron is matured. So if you have a nest and you build it up a lot taller than this, it might be a little bit like crunchy and harder to bite through. So make sure that you have it looking like a nest, but it's not too crazy huge. After that's dried for just a little bit, so enough that it's not going to smush really easily while I'm working with it, I'm going to go through and use a little bit more royal icing as glue to stick on my chocolate eggs. eggs. If you want to, you can do this entire process with buttercream, or you can do the sticking of the eggs with buttercream or with chocolate. Chocolate will harden like royal icing does, and the buttercream will harden in the refrigerator, and of course it will soften once it gets to room temperature. So just think both about the flavor profile and what it is that you want to be creating and how easy it is to eat, or whatever it is, what would work best for you. As I mentioned, this is more of a decorative kind of macaron. It is hard to bite through with the chocolate eggs, but you can with just that little dab of royal icing. They are kind of easy to still pick off later, so it is not really an issue. It does look especially challenging right now. If you wanted to, you can kind of see the teal blue shell in the inside of the nest there. If you want to really go for an even more intense nest vibe, you can go in with an offset spatula or a paintbrush or something and paint just underneath it, like an inside circle inside your nest, or on top of the shell before you pipe the nest, to make sure everything is brown, whatever works best for you and your design, whatever you're going for. Then I just filled these and matured them just like normal, and that is it. I think this is such a fun spring/Easter design. If you do give this a try or were inspired by this or any of my other videos, make sure to tag me on Instagram. You can find me at Maddie Brame. You can also now find me on TikTok at Macarons by Maddie, and make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any other tutorials. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!